So, Robert Zemeckis, director of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, went on to the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast to promote his newest movie, Here, with Tom Hanks and Robin Wright Penn. And yes, the movie is actually called Here. It's not referring to a throw up on the screen. He was asked about Roger Rabbit and confirmed that a sequel script had been written, but is unlikely to be made, largely because of Jessica Rabbit. Here is what Robert Zemeckis said, quote, "Here's what you have to know. The current Disney would never make Roger Rabbit today. They can't make a movie with Jessica in it," referring to Jessica Rabbit. "The sequel script isn't ever going to see the light of day, as good as it is. I mean, look what they did to Jessica at the theme park. They trussed her up in a trench coat," end quote. And what Robert Zemeckis is referring to is back in 2021, Disney took out the classic Jessica Rabbit from the ride Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin and transformed Jessica Rabbit into a detective, putting her in a fedora and trench coat. Far from the classic interpretation of the woman in red trope that Jessica Rabbit portrayed in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And if we're being fair, Jessica Rabbit was modeled after the actress Veronica Lake. Now, I know most of you already know that, but there's a few of you that might not know that little factoid about Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Robert Zemeckis continued on as to why he believes Who Framed Roger Rabbit became a classic with, and I quote, "We were able to make it right at the time when Disney was ready to rebuild itself. We were there when a new regime came in and they were full of energy. I kept saying, and I sincerely say this, I am making Roger Rabbit the way I believe Walt Disney would have made it. I say that because Walt never made any of his movies for children. He always made them for adults. That's what I decided to do with Roger Rabbit," end quote. Robert Zemeckis continued with, quote, "One time we did a test preview with just moms and kids. I was terrified. These kids were 5 and 6 years old. They were riveted by the movie. I realized that kids get everything. They understand. They get it. The thing that Walt Disney never did was he never talked down to children in his movies. He treated the kids like adults," end quote. To continue on with this topic, I want to go over why a sequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit should be in the cards at Disney, and no, it is not because I have a hard-on for Jessica Rabbit, because Jessica Rabbit is a cartoon. And I have distilled it down to 3 reasons why Who Framed Roger Rabbit 2 should absolutely be in the cards for Disney. And the first reason is actually the most simple, is because Who Framed Roger Rabbit was the highest grossing movie of 1988. I'm pulling my information directly from a site called thenumbers.com, and the top grossing movies of 1988, the highest grossing movie of 1988 was Who Framed Roger Rabbit, with a gross of $151,000,000, $668,767, I believe, at least in North America. The second highest, the top 5 highest grossing movies of 1988, I should have opened with that, are number 1 of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, number 2, Coming to America with Eddie Murphy, number 3, Good Morning Vietnam, that's with Robin Williams, number 4 is the movie Big with Tom Hanks, and the 5th highest grossing movie of 1988 was Crocodile Dundee 2. Crocodile Dundee 2 being the only sequel in the top 5. If we expand it to the top 10, number 6 was Three Men and a Baby. That was Steve Guttenberg, Tom Selleck, and motherfucker, I can never remember the third person from Three Men and a Baby. Not important. The 7th highest grossing movie of all time was Cocktail. That's with Tom Cruise. The 8th highest grossing movie was Moonstruck. That's with Cher. The 9th highest grossing movie in 1988 was Die Hard. And the 10th highest grossing movie in 1988 was Beetlejuice. And Beetlejuice did get a sequel in 2024 called Beetlejuice. So still, even if we extend to the top 10 of the top grossing movies of 1988, only one of those movies was a sequel. Okay, the rest of the top 10 were all like first movies in the series, or just one-off movies. So why should Who Framed Roger Rabbit 2 be made? Because it was the highest grossing movie of 1988, and it probably also did insanely well on home video. Like, everyone knows who Roger Rabbit is. Everyone knows who Jessica Rabbit is. Why wouldn't you capitalize off the success of that? The second reason I want to go into is because Top Gun Maverick made over $1 billion worldwide. And I want to touch on Top Gun Maverick because I remember a time when everyone was saying that a sequel to Top Gun would never work. Right? Top Gun came out in 86. I believe it was 86. And while it didn't make $1 billion at the time, it did do really, really well in home video. And even the United States Navy came out and confirmed that it was like the best recruitment film that they ever made. And it's like, okay, so you're going to make a sequel to a movie that was basically a recruitment movie. And if we're being honest about the original Top Gun did not have a story to it. So what the hell are you going to do for a sequel? And Top Gun Maverick comes out in 2022, and it's the first Tom Cruise movie to ever cross $1 billion at the worldwide box office. You don't think that a sequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit isn't going to do something similar or close to $1 billion worldwide? That after 30 plus years, now you can't do it with Bob Hoskins, because I believe Bob Hoskins passed away. Okay, I did pause the recording to verify the information about how the sequel can't be made with Bob Hoskins. And yes, I did need to verify that yes, Bob Hoskins did die back in 2014. But still, even if we subtract Bob Hoskins out of the movie, they can make it what they can. You know, I'm not saying to recast Bob Hoskins, but they can just make a new character. But still, you know, everyone knows who Roger Rabbit is. Everyone knows who Jessica Rabbit is. As long as you keep those two in the movie, it should work. But still, you know, how many people believed that a sequel to Top Gun Maverick would never work? If Top Gun Maverick can make over $1 billion worldwide, so can a sequel to Roger Rabbit. And the third and final reason for why I think that Who Framed Roger Rabbit 2 should be made is that Disney is in absolute desperate need for a guaranteed hit at this point. If we look at their film slate from 2023, every one of their movies was effectively a bomb. I think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was the only movie that was a hit for Disney, and that movie barely broke even. And actually, I'm incorrect. There was a news story a few days ago. I didn't jump on it, largely because I didn't really care about it. But there was a news story a few days ago that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, despite being a box office bomb, again, I believe that movie actually holds the record for the largest opening weekend of a box office bomb. According to a news story from a few days ago, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania actually made money, but it made money because of tax rebates. It actually made a profit, I believe, of like $90,000 or $100,000 because of tax rebates. But still, you know, look at Disney in 2023. You know, most, if not all of their movies were just outright bombs. And Disney is not in the position anymore where they put out a movie and it's guaranteed to either make $1 billion at the box office or close to $1 billion at the box office. So if you're looking at it from a financial standpoint, which is what a lot of corporations do, why wouldn't you go to your back catalog and, okay, Who Framed Roger Rabbit was the highest grossing movie in 1988. It was huge on home video. We have a ride in the park, at least in Disneyland, called Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin. Why wouldn't you go back and make a sequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit? And I do want to end the video off with this before I read this in the comments. I'm just going to post this hypothetical. If Disney does this movie, will they censor Jessica Rabbit? And I'm just going to say outright, you know, more than likely. You know, if Disney were to come out tomorrow and say, we are going to put Roger Rabbit 2 into production right now, they will more than likely censor Jessica Rabbit. I'm not stupid in that regard. And I will say this. If they make a sequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit and they do it with Detective Jessica Rabbit or some other, like, censored version of her, then the higher-ups at Disney at that point should just put their heads between their knees and kiss their asses goodbye. Pandering to the Twitter mafia doesn't work anymore. People just won't show up for the movie if they censor Jessica Rabbit. And this is the real reason that people are up in arms about the censorship of Jessica Rabbit. If Disney censors Jessica Rabbit and Who Framed Roger Rabbit 2, then what else are they willing to censor or mock from the original movie? Audiences today are perfectly fine with ignoring sequels, believe you me. Before the show Cobra Kai came out, everyone and their mother ignored The Karate Kid Part 3 because The Karate Kid Part 3 sucked. And in fact, that's one of the reasons I don't like Cobra Kai, is that they're trying to legitimize The Karate Kid 3 despite the fact that the Karate Kid 3 sucked. But again, I want to reiterate, if Disney puts Who Framed Roger Rabbit 2 into production and they do it with a censored Jessica Rabbit, then everyone who made that decision just needs to put their heads between their knees and kiss their asses goodbye, because Who Framed Roger Rabbit 2 will absolutely bomb if they censor Jessica Rabbit once again.